everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read. When, Brad?
Read this now, people! You can hashtag that.
That is some passion right there.
Yes.
We don't want you to wait. We want you to read them now, darn it.
Only the best for you, people. That's what we try to recommend.
I love it. How are you, my friend?
So good, so good. And to drop the curtain and get rid of the veil, Jen and I just had an incredible pre-show conversation, so we know we're completely updated, but we're kind of doing this for you, so it feels very relational, right, Jen?
If you come away with nothing else from this show, it's that you should know for sure that Brad and I are friends, and we do this every week, partly because we love literacy, but also it's an excuse to hang out together.
Yeah, amen to that. Quick thing we didn't talk about during the pre-show. I had an author friend, can I say that? I think she's a friend. I don't know if she would consider me a friend, but she reached out in a direct message and say, hey, has anyone sent you an arc of my upcoming book? And I don't want to give away her news or anything. And I'm like, no. And she's like, do you want one? And I'm like, yes, thank you, please. And then I told my kids because it's so fun to share your reading life with kids, and they, anytime I have a chance to connect with an author visits our school, our students here, stuff like that, I keep them up to date on stuff like that. And of course they were gushing and they're like, is she gonna sign it? So then I sent her a message back, my kids want to know if you'll sign it, and all that jazz. Just super fun. But that's exciting. That was like little things like that are just like life changers. So cool. So fun. So
they are. And I think anytime that you can connect kids, even like a few degrees of separation, in so much as you had the conversation with the author and then you shared it with your kids, but connect them with an author, it also gives them the sense that authors are real people that maybe have lives similar to theirs. Maybe being an author is something they could do. Because sometimes we think of authors, I know I do, and I've seen this in kids many times, as sort of these, up on pedestals, and often, just far removed, these superhuman creatures, but really they're just people like us.
We had a quick related story. So this second part just happened last night. So one of my daughters was saying her friend is reading Momentous Events in the Life of a Cactus. And I must have said a few months ago or mentioned that Dusty Bowling has created like a video for our school, and she and I have connected a couple of times. And I said, yeah, maybe when your friend reads us someday, we can send a question to Dusty or something like that. Well, last night it kind of came back to bite me because my daughter must have told the friend that, and she's like, yeah, she already has a few questions for Dusty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to somehow have to get Dusty these questions. What is she wondering, But anyway, to your point, how cool is it to live in a world where kids are not only relating to the books and the characters, but to the human beings who are writing them in an inquisitive, curious way. That is just so cool.
I know. It's the magic of technology that we get to make those connections so easily now.
Yeah.
So
and that authors are just obviously busy people, but out of the goodness of their heart, they're willing from time to time to answer questions and connect in that way. It's just so cool. So thank you to everyone.
I'm going to say this one last thing for people who are watching, our 3.5 viewers, is that I have found in my experience that authors, they write for your students. Your kids are their target audience, and being able to connect with them is really a joyful experience for an author. And so every time I've ever asked, not that everyone's ever always been able to say yes to my request, but most of the time, if they can't say yes, they say not yet, or maybe with this, accommodation. So you should never be afraid to ask, because I think it's good for both the authors and the kids.
Cool. Well, I suppose we should deliver on the two book recommendations. You're like the closer, like on a Major League Baseball team. The closer, I think, is like the best pitcher. I feel like you're our closer these days, Jen. And then people leave the show with a good they're like, wow, that's a quality production. So with that said, do you mind?
You set the stage then. Okay. So you have to set the bar.
Okay. So can I set the stage? You ready for this one?
Yes, do it.
Okay. So recently I got a copy of a book, and yeah, I probably gravitate more towards sharing books that are available right now, but every once in a while an art comes along and it's like, I can't not share this right now. So I'm going to let you know, Jen, I'm about halfway through this one, and I can't stop thinking about it. I had to fight the urge to read today during work. I'm like, not going to do it. That's not going to look good. But here we are after work, and I can talk about this book. So first saw this book several months ago. I'm just going to hold it up.
I knew it. I knew what it was. I knew you would be
And when I
doing
saw
this.
the cover, and it took me back to like and by the way, 9/11, I think the 20th anniversary is coming up this year, if I'm not mistaken. But my mind immediately went to me being on campus at St. Cloud State and that day, but also lots of reflecting, in addition to me saying, I need that, I want to read that so badly. But like, this isn't something that's easy for me to talk about with my kids, or it doesn't come up in conversation a lot here. Part of that might just be because a lot of the kids we're with weren't born, right? And like, what do you do with that? So for so many reasons, I just see this as I don't know if godsend is the right word, but an important book. So here are a couple quick observations, and I would, at this halfway through the book, I'm very confident saying this is going to be a really important book for kiddos and teachers to, I think, enter into conversations, not just about 9/11, but also in about like, we live in a world where there are complex things that are happening, and however right or wrong something is, someone else might be living and looking at it differently than you. And we can choose to shut that down and say they're wrong, or we can choose to understand that, wow, this is ridiculously complex. And I want to be curious about why they think what they think. And this book, I wasn't expecting this to happen. For some reason, I thought it'd be more just kind of about just about 9/11, but you have two characters, and Gratz masterfully bounces back and forth between Brandon, who's in the World Trade Center the day it goes down, and Rishima, I think I'm saying this right, approximately 20 years later, more or less present day. So it's going back and forth in a way that I personally, this is what I think of Alan Gratz. I don't know what other people think of him. Like, I have come to know him as someone who is like one of the best at giving cliffhanger endings at chapters, to the point where I can't put his stuff down. Like, I was up reading this very late last night too, and I'm like, finally, like, I got to go to bed. But it's because of how he ends each chapter. But also I came across something new and different this time that I just literally like thought it was a Picasso, the writing equivalent to a Picasso maneuver. So I am going to read this one quick part, and trust me when I say he wrote it better than I'm about to read it and retell it. But so it starts off, chapter 1 starts off with Brandon and kind of going to work with his dad, and going up. The chapter ends with him going up in the elevator to where his dad works. And then it flips to Rishima's chapter, because I said it had that alternating thing. And Rashmina, I'm sorry, I'm sure I did not say that right. I'm sorry. Her chapter starts out, chapter 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, but it's connecting my mind. I think Gratz had to have done this intentionally. You're thinking about the elevator because that's how the previous chapter, and then it goes into something she's doing that's completely different, that it's involving counting. And I know that may sound, I don't know, simple, or like I'm easily pleased with writing, but I'm telling you, it was masterful. And I'm like, it's like what he does again and again and again and again. A couple other things I think probably are important for people to know as they pick this up. It's clear to me a lot of research went into this, as engaging as it is. He clearly did his homework. Now, I want to say, obviously, I don't know this to be true, but it's not an own voice book when it comes to Rashmina, but it feels to me like great care has gone into her perspective and some of the storytelling around that. So I need to be careful and not gush too much. I'm halfway through. It's incredible, and I would highly recommend you write down on your calendars. It looks like it's coming out maybe February 2nd or thereabout.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, I think it's a book that educators will love, but also that powerful classroom conversations, not just about 9/11, but about lots of other important things that are happening right now could connect to. So read this
Mhm.
now.
This is one of those times where we can say pre-order this now,
Yeah.
because you can definitely hit the pre-order link on your favorite bookseller, to get this one added to your collection, have it show up at your door on the day that it's released. I all I can say is yes, yes, and yes. I haven't read Ground Zero yet, although I have it, and I kind of looked at the first few pages kind of as a little teaser to me. I absolutely knew that you would dive into it the moment you had a copy, and that I'd be seeing it here. I anticipated that because I know your fondness for Alan Gratz, and rightfully so. But gosh, it's like hard to think of another, especially author of historical fiction, who writes it in such a way that really makes moments in history not only come alive, because as you mentioned, Alan Gratz does just a masterful job of creating these short cliffhanger chapters that just make you want to keep digging in and getting more and more, but also making those moments in history relevant to today. So kids can really understand why these events are not only important, but important for us to learn from. So that's awesome. I'm excited to read it myself, and always good. It's always a good year when there's a new Alan Gratz book.
Yes, 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 and yes. So our closer here, taking the
Yes.
mound.
Well, I'm going to actually do a bonus book talk then, because I want to also just quickly mention another book that I think would be a good partner for Ground Zero.
Hmm.
Having not read Ground Zero, but just based on what you said, there's a picture book that came out this last year called All of a Sudden and Forever.
Hmm.
And I can't remember the author, but folks watching this can Google it. And it All of a Sudden and Forever, and it's actually about the Oklahoma City bombing. And what it does just a wonderful job of is kind of first helping kids understand how something all of a sudden can be really traumatic, but then how the effects on us as human beings can last forever. And it does this wonderful job of showing healing over time, over something that, was super traumatic and painful for so many people.
Is that
That's
it, Jen?
exactly it.
Okay.
All of a sudden and forever. Who are the authors?
Chris Barton, illustrated by Nicole Zhu, I believe.
Yeah, it came out this last year. It was on my list of my favorite picture books of the year.
Hmm.
I didn't bookmark it here. I just hadn't gotten to it yet. I mean, book talk it here, but it's the kind of thing that I think would dovetail nicely with
Hmm.
Ground Zero, because the
Thank you for
the
sharing
themes
that.
are the same, even though the events are different. The themes
Hmm.
and the human
Appreciate that.
experience sound similar.
I
But the
love I love bonus book talks.
I know, a little bonus, right? But the book I really wanted to talk about today, first I have to set the stage for this book talk, because some of the people watching this, 2.5 of our 3.5 viewers, are
Hey, we're actually,
probably
I didn't want to correct you before. I'm pretty sure we're up to 4.5 viewers. So let's give ourselves the
okay.
credit that we
Yes,
deserve.
okay. Finally, milestone achieved, right? Achievement unlocked. But I'm guessing that a number of the people who are watching this show are like me, sort of counting the moments away from next week's Youth Media Awards. These are like the Oscars for books. It's when the Newbery, the Caldecott winners are all announced from last year. And book nerds like me, we get real excited about it, and watch it and get all teary when the books we love win stuff, right? And I'm terrible at predicting these things. I never know who's going to win. Sometimes I've read a bunch of the books, and I'm going to be real excited for our show after the YMA, so that we can think about all the books we book talked here that ended up with some stickers on their covers. But today, I wanted to share a book that I don't know whether or not it's going to win anything, but that I haven't seen on any like lists of potential wins, but that I think should be. Like, this is a book that I don't think is as nearly as famous as it needs to be. That's what I'm basically sharing
Okay, I love it.
today.
I
Okay.
love the
Uh,
premise.
yes. Okay. So this is a picture book, and it's by Mac Barnett and Shawn Harris, and it's called A Polar Bear in the Snow. Have you ever seen this book?
I haven't.
Okay, and that's just what it looks like. And here's the premise of this book. It's a polar bear in the snow. And the entire book, all we're doing is just sort of wondering where he's going. And the author and the illustrator give us some hints about that. But here's why this book remains like just in my top few picture books of last year, why I think about it all the time. While I kept a copy for myself, even though I don't have children, etc., is the art book. The art in this book is so unique and profound. And I want to share I'm going to share several pages with you, okay? But I'm going to start just by saying the opening page, the opening spread of this book says, still asleep. Oh, sorry. I skipped a page. Oops. Bad picture book reader. Let's try this again. There's a polar bear in the snow, and all we see is white. Okay, that's it. Then it says, still asleep, he lifts his nose to sniff the air. And then all we see is the nose. Okay, and that looks almost to me like charcoal or crayon on some paper. But then here's where things start to get remarkable. When we see the entire polar bear, and I'm going to go through this, scan it all the way across, the light from my window is sort of hurting this. I want you to notice, Brad, can you see? This is all done with paper.
Yes.
These are all torn pieces of paper to create the bear. There's a polar bear in the snow. Then we get asked questions. Where is he going? Can you see this, Brad?
That's beautiful.
It's all paper. Okay. And then we get, they takes us on some possibilities. Well, is he going to go play with the seals? These are all paper seals in the snow. And my window is shining a light in there that's sort of not making this as effective as it could be. But here we go. We get all these options. And one question asks, is he going to hunker in a cave? And the answer is no, his fur protects him. And this might be, if not my favorite, one of my favorite spreads in this whole book. I want you to see this. I'm going to try to hide it from the light. Here's some animals watching out of the den. Look at that paper, Brad. Can you see then the bear comes? They're
Yes.
out there in the den. Can you see the paper, how the torn paper makes?
Yes, and they must use the lighting as part of the art of this, I would suspect.
Yes. And so then it goes on. We get all sorts of different options for where the bear is going to go. And then all of a sudden, nothing but black and white the entire way, all of a sudden we reach the sea. And suddenly we have some blue. And he dives into the sea. And I just want to show you this spread and remind you when I show you, it's 100% paper. Okay. Let me get there. My fingers aren't as fast as my brain sometimes. Here we go.
It's building the suspense, though, I tell you.
I know, right? We dive into the sea. See the bear up there. 100% done with paper.
Wow.
And one of the spreads I just wanted to share really quickly before I end this book talk, is this in one of the spreads, which is one of the reasons why this book has stuck with me so much, is that when they ask the question, is the bear going to hunker down in the cave? I want you to notice, here's the bear leaving, and the paper bear's foot has been stuck into the snow by adding a little paper divot footprint. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. And the actual foot is inside, like the paper's been inserted inside. And I think about how that's exactly what a kid would do. Like, that's a childlike way, like that's exactly what a kid would do. And at the very last page, we see him walking away. We've got a cute little bear bottom and footprints, little divots in the snow. And seeing the book here on the screen is not doing it justice, as we're never able to do for any of our picture books on here. But I got to tell you, this is one of the most, without it being 3D, the most tactile picture books experiences I've ever had, because you can almost, it's like, there's a sensory aspect of this where I can feel what the paper would be feeling like, etc. And also, I just think about all the variety of activities you could do with kids and having them recreate different kinds of things without having to draw by doing these paper crafts. I can't say enough about it. Who knows? Maybe it'll win an award when the YMAs come out. But it's a book I just haven't heard enough people talking about. I love it so much. I think it's really a remarkable accomplishment, and it's called Polar Bear in the Snow, and it's by Mac Barnett and Shawn Harris. I
That's
think you should
great.
read it right now.
Thanks. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that before, Jen. There's something really cool about paper that you zoom in it, whether it's under a microscope or however they get it. My guess is they've zoomed in a little bit because you could get that magical detail that you don't always get just from looking at a torn sheet of paper from far away.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think is sometimes true about the most remarkable art is that it it looks very simple in the sense that maybe there's only so many points for your eye to focus on, etc. But when you look at it more deeply, you can start to see all of the effort and creativity and steps that probably went into creating it. I can imagine that this was a time consuming, multi stage, multi element process for each one of these illustrations that required photography and light and all sorts of things. I don't know if anything exists about how it was done, but I would be real fascinated to see it.
Yeah, I love that page where the polar bear was up near the surface of the water swimming, but you were looking from the bottom of the ocean.
Yes.
That had, there's some Einstein quote or something like true creativity is simplicity, or it's, something like that. But you can just see how creative and powerful and talented it is, that art is, but yet it's somehow they accomplish that in the simplest terms.
And what's really neat on that page and on several of the others, which I know is impossible to see in the video, is for that particular spread, a lot of the light work, the way it shows light filtering down to the bottom of the ocean, is actually like twisted paper. If you look closely, you can see the paper.
Oh, I didn't see any of that.
I mean, it's really remarkable, Brad. It really is
That's
remarkable.
Cool.
So I hope people pick it up and read it. And who knows, maybe it'll end up with a sticker, but if not, it's definitely got my heart on the cover because I love it very, very much.
Jen, there's been something haunting me since we tried this about a month ago, and that we tried this thing called a book bump. Instead of a fist bump, it was a book bump, and I just feel like we didn't execute up to our fullest potential. Can we try this one last time and we end on a book bump?
We can, but we're really pulling back the curtain in terms of being transparent about this. The last time we did this, you could tell there's no planning here, y'all. I noticed in the final product, with the way that Zoom records, that we weren't, even though for us it looked like we were bumping books, really we were going the same direction.
Oh,
so it was.
So we should go opposite directions.
Maybe we should try that.
What if I go to the opposite? I'll go to the outside of my screen, and you go to the outside.
Yeah, let's try it. Okay.
All right, here we go.
3. Ready? 1. Hold your book up higher though.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
That's okay. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Bump.
Yes, right, that felt good. Like that felt like the literacy equivalent of a fist bump. I'm feeling good about this.
You know what? 28th time's a charm. We're going to get it eventually. I love it. All right, y'all. Well, one thing that we have mastered, Brad, if it's not the book bump, it's keeping an archive of all these shows. So if our friends out there would like to view that, where can they go?
bit.ly/read_this_now. Be there or be square.
Indeed. All right. Thanks, everyone. Happy reading. We'll see you next time.